Well, thank you very much. So as I look at the crowd, how many of you don't have to go to work tomorrow? A few of us. I'm retired. And so it's a really good place to be. And you might be wondering, so if you're retired, Devon, why are you still doing this? I want to tell you honestly, I have a real, true, deep passion for this community. And if you're like me, I believe nothing happens just by coincidence or by chance. I mean, I listened to so many of the speakers before me, and I said, it's amazing how common the thread is that has run through so many of our presentations and what we're talking about. But as I said, truly I am here because, yes, even though I'm retired as a chief of police, and when I did that job, I did it passionately because I had a true purpose, desire for our city. When I retired, I didn't suddenly lose that purpose and that passion and desire that I have for our city. And so that's why I'm still here. What I believe about the city of Winnipeg is this. I believe the city of Winnipeg can be the example of how you do community well. How you can have people representative of just about every single nation, religion, in one city, and we do it well in peace and harmony. When you look around the world today, and you see so much in terms of discord, and you talk about who is going to lead, oftentimes we think about ourselves in this city, and you'll hear people talk about the negatives, the mosquitoes, the cold, these things. But what I see about our city, you need to look at our city and say, we can be the example of how we truly do community well. And so when I became a police officer, I would often make this statement. I would say, I want to change the world. And people think, you must be dreaming. But I said, no, I want to change the world. And it was funny, when I announced my retirement and people would ask me, Devon, what will you be doing now? What would come out of my mouth were those same words. I want to change the world. And I can tell you, I can make that statement not because I am a dreamer, it's because I've experienced it. But something else that I believe about this city, I believe there are a lot of dreamers in this city. I really believe that. Sometimes we just need to be woken up, or possibly we just need to be told that the lid is off, and here's what we can ascribe to. Here are the things that we can achieve. I believe that this city, at some point in time in the very near future, is going to be that shining example of how we do community well. So immediately after retirement, I am still staying involved in the police and community. I'm part of an organization called the Canadian Police Knowledge Network, and their head office is in Prince Edward Island. So this year for the board meeting, I said to my wife, rather than flying, which I typically did when I was a chief, how about we drive across this beautiful country of ours and really just take it in? So we had a beautiful drive, and I have to tell you, our country is incredibly beautiful. And as I looked at the majesty of the country as I drove through it, really what came to mind for me, Michael, was our Indigenous peoples. So I can just imagine what this must have been like for them. To have just the majesty, the freedom, just the awesome, splendid nature of this community. And I'm saying, I don't think they are experiencing as much of it as the rest of the community. And what can we do to help correct that? And one of the most beautiful things I saw was this temple. This is a Hindu Mandir. It's just outside of Toronto. And we went for a tour. What really moved me and my wife about this magnificent building was that it was carved by over 2,000 artisans in India, shipped here, and when it arrived, it was put together and everything fit perfectly. No traditional, let's say, I-beams or any traditional construction methodology, all by ancient methodology. All of it carved by hand, all of it paid for by the community, and today all of the operating costs are borne by the community. It just caused me to say, what can we do when people come together around a purpose and a passion and a desire? And then I went to Niagara Falls. Majestic, and again, my heart was moved to the Indigenous peoples had all of this. Are they getting to experience all of the majesty that we are? All of the economic development. When I looked at the community of Niagara Falls, I said to myself, I am proud that we have something like this in our country. It's absolutely magnificent. And then we continued our drive, and I came to this. This is the Confederation Bridge that links the mainland to Prince Edward Island. Prince Edward Island, our smallest province, right? But at some point in time, someone had a purpose, a passion, and desire that said, even though you might be the smallest, we want to be connected. We're going to be one. And somebody spent significant dollar and time and saying that we are going to be linked together. We are one. Think about that when you think about this community. We are one. And it doesn't matter how much it might cost us in terms of human effort or money, we should do everything we can to ensure that every single person in the city feels a part of the city. Every single person has the potential to achieve. This is a very famous statement, and I absolutely love it. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. I believe that. And that brings me back to us, because as I said, I have a true passion for this city. What can we become? When you look at some of the stats, before I took over as chief, I would always see the headlines: murder capital, crime capital, child poverty capital. And then I would see all the incredible people in this community and say, we're so much more than that. What if we had a real deep passion, a dream, a desire to say that we will no longer be murder capital, crime capital, child poverty capital, but every single person, every single child in the city will have the opportunity to achieve their dreams? Could we do that? Well, if we can build that magnificent temple, if we can build a bridge that links all of us, if we can construct around Niagara Falls, this beautiful city, I say absolutely this city can do that. Am I just a dreamer? Why do I believe so much? Let me tell you why I believe so much. It was 1975 when Devon Clunis immigrated from Jamaica. Grew up in a little community called Harmony Vale. Does it make you feel good just to say the name? Harmony Vale. No electricity, no running water. We were poor, but we never knew that we were poor. When I arrived here, we were planted on Selkirk Avenue. 2 days later, I am sitting in a classroom. Now, growing up in Jamaica, everyone looked like me. I didn't know I was different. The first day in that classroom, suddenly it dawned on me that I'm different. And the Winnipeg of 1975 was not the Winnipeg that we have here. The classroom was not like this. It was not with this incredible diversity. The first year was a significant struggle. I think most of us will understand that when you take a young child out of what is so common and familiar to them, and suddenly you plant them in this new environment, it's not an easy transition. Yes, we were living in a nicer home, but it was a significant transition. And I failed grade 6, and I remember sitting with my mother and with the teacher, and some people were saying, he is just a slow learner. Let's put him in a class for slow learners. How about we take a little time? When you look at the face of our community today, I'm saying to us, we need to take a little time. But I had a really beautiful teacher. Her name was Miss Hannah. Miss Hannah said, Devon, if you come to school an hour early every day, I will meet you here and I will help you. Do we have some Miss Hannahs here? Will we reach out to our newcomers, to those within the Indigenous community, and say, what can I do for you? How can we help? So I said to myself, something in my head told me this was the best decision. So I went to school early every day and I met Miss Hannah, hour ahead of the rest of the kids. And after about 3 months of meeting with her, I remember these words clearly. She said to me, Devon, this is so easy for you. School became very easy. If you go back to Isaac Newton Junior High in the north end, on the board you will see in 1979, graduating, one of the top 2 students in the school, Devon Clunis. It's still there. And I grew up in the north end, went to St. John's High School, played basketball, and I would see my coaches who were devoting so much of their time to me, and I'm saying, I want to be like them. Like Miss Hannah. And I left high school, and I was a student here, and I had a part-time job at a store here in security. And previous to that, when I saw a police officer, I would go the other way. But while I was doing that job, I had an opportunity to meet with a police officer and talk with them face-to-face, and realized, stereotypically, they weren't what I saw on television. And I said I wanted to do something to make a real difference in our city, to really get rid of the stereotype that to look a certain way or come from a certain country meant that you're going into crime or drugs. And that police officer told me, if you like what you're doing so much, why don't you become a police officer? I had never seen a police officer in our city that looked like me. There were very few. And I thought that by becoming a police officer, I can set an example to other kids who look like me and to the broader community, that you're not shackled by where you're coming from or the color of your skin. You can be anything. And I became a police officer, and I was thrilled to do that job. But at the same time, let me tell you, my heart was breaking because as I would walk Main Street, I would see people in real destitute conditions. And so I challenged myself as the police officer. I said, you can make a difference, even simply by saying to somebody, sir or ma'am, just in how I address them. And sometimes it's like I saw a light went on in somebody's face when I would say, sir. And I thought, that's my job, to make a difference. And when I saw young women who were being prostituted, I would spend significant time talking with them, saying, here is a potential outcome for your life. It doesn't have to go this way. And still, one of the proudest moments in my entire career was receiving a telephone call from a young lady calling me from Calgary saying, I don't know if you remember me, but, and I did. She said, I just want you to know that what you said made a difference. And I'm back home, I'm with my family, and everything is going really well. A word, some action. And I was fortunate that over time I started getting promoted in the organization. I was no longer on the front lines, but I was behind the scenes. And I said, my job as a supervisor is to ensure that I create the healthiest environment for those who I get to serve so that they can go out and serve our citizens well. And I challenged myself to do that consistently. And consistently, I would find myself being assigned to areas where there were some significant challenges. But consistently, with that servant mentality that I'm here to serve them so they can serve our citizens well, everything would turn around. Fast forward 25 years. I am thinking I'm going to retire in 2012. I'm now a superintendent in the Winnipeg Police Service, one of the 7 highest ranking members. The little boy from Jamaica who grew up with no electricity, running water, failed grade 6, just wanted to be a police officer, promoted time and time again, now being one of the 7 highest ranking members in a major Canadian police agency. I thought my life is so good. You're blessed. I said, why is your life so good? Miss Hannah. I said, I have to go back and find her and thank her. So I went back to the school board office in uniform, didn't want them to think this was some kind of a prank, that I'm legitimate. And I said, I'm trying to find this teacher because here's the impact she had on my life and I want her to know. They said, unfortunately, Miss Hannah passed away. So every time I told my story, I would tell the power of one. The incredible difference that one person can make. You never know what the ripple effects of your interactions will be, but just take the time to do it. And so I was contemplating retirement, but something said, no, Devon, your purpose is here. You still need to keep making a difference in our city. So, in 2012, our chief announced his retirement. And I thought, okay, I will apply for the job. I'm a superintendent. Above me is a deputy and then chief. And if I get the job, I will stay. If I don't, I can retire and go to Florida in the winter with my wife. So I applied for the job. In September of 2012, while I'm in the process, I get a call. I get a call from one of my staff sergeants saying, Devon, I don't know if this makes sense, but my neighbor works at the school board office. They remember you coming in looking for this teacher. She hasn't passed away, but she's in the hospital with a terminal illness right now. I was at home. I got dressed immediately. I drove down to the hospital, found her room, knocked on it. I walked in, and there's Miss Hannah. And I said, Miss Hannah, do you remember a little boy named Devon Clunis? I hadn't seen Miss Hannah in 38 years. Miss Hannah said, yes, and I'm praying that you become the next chief of police. She passed away 3 weeks later, but I became the 17th chief of police in the city of Winnipeg and the first black chief of police in Canadian history. Why? No, not about me. Why? Because one person decided that they were going to make a difference. When I think about the city, and I think about all the incredible people in the city, all the incredible things that have occurred in this city, I'm saying, what would happen if all of us come together, realizing the potential that's in every single one, that all it's required is for someone to say, I am going to lend a hand. I don't think any of our children should be growing up in those destitute conditions in this city. There are too many resources. Since I've announced my retirement, there are so many people coming to me and saying, here's what I want to do, here's what I want to do, here's what I want to do. And what I say to them is, let's do it together. I truly believe that this city can be the shining example where no child has to live in poverty, where every single one in the Indigenous community can reap the benefits from this amazing land that we're all privileged to live in. In the city that has the largest urban, indigenous population in the country. It should be the city that shows how, not just talking about reconciliation, but how we do it well, that everyone, every single one prospers. When we look at the incredible immigration that's coming into this city, we need to recognize that the future welfare of this city rests on every single one having the potential to achieve. And each one of us who are in a position like this, reaching out and saying, how can I help you? Miss Hannah saw a little boy from Jamaica. She didn't have to, but she said, how can I help you? And that little boy was able to achieve something. Just imagine every single one of us did that. All we have to do is help one. This city will be that example. I believe it. That's why I'm here, even though I'm retired. I'm retired from policing, and I said this, I'm retired so I can be more embedded in the community because I have this passion, and I believe that this city is going to be something incredible. Let us all do it together. We can achieve this. Thank you.